Welcome, everybody. It is Monday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the House of Seven Beggars, and therefore it is not Zeta's Story Corner. It is a new show, which is called the Old Rabbis Discuss, and it's going to be myself and my esteemed colleague, Rabbi Ancel Salamon. And let me bring him on now. I'll unmute his mic for him. And called the Old Rabbis Discuss. There we go. And it's going to be myself. I'm getting my esteemed colleague. Yeah, let me I'm getting Salamon, and let me bring him on now. Let's see here. Okay, there we are. Okay, turn the volume off. Turn the sound off on that one. There we go. Okay. So here we are. You can speak now.
Shalom, everybody. My name is Rabbi Ancel Salamon. My Hebrew name is Zasha ben Mordechai. I was born in the country of Romania 73 years ago. I've lived both in Canada, the United States, and for the last 10 years I have been residing in the Dominican Republic, where basically I do Jewish weddings only. And I have done many conversions because most of the Jews that came here in 1942 were single people and they intermarried. And believe it or not, they said they were converted by a Chazan. Basically, doesn't matter. Conversions are done by rabbis only. So slowly, I've probably done 50 to 60 conversions back so that they can actually be Jews. Some men intermarried with Dominican women, and some Jewish ladies marry Dominican men. But they must study with me. They must do their lessons. I warned them and I said, I don't do instant coffee conversions. They must do their lessons. They must answer them. They must answer them correctly. And when they're done all the lessons, we go to the ocean, which is God's mikvah. We do the mikvah. We do the prayers, and we do the conversion, and then I give them a conversion certificate. And one of the signatures is my good friend, and I'm truly honored to know him, and that is Rabbi Aryel Nachman ben Chaim.
Oh, thank you. So before we get into this too deep, let me see who we have in the chat room. We have Colleen, we have Marshall, we have Kelsey Lynn, we have Simcha, we have, let's see, there's Marilyn and David and Shoshi And I think that's everybody for the time being. And of course, we have a few people who are watching in the background who are not in the chat room. But yeah, we know you're there anyway. So, okay, so the topic for tonight was to discuss whatever we want to discuss. That's the whole premise of the show, is that the two rabbis, Rabbi A and Rabbi A squared, we're going to discuss whatever it is that we decide we want to discuss. So tonight we're going to discuss the difference between Ashkenaz and Sefardi. So,
Weddings.
okay, so let me just check with everybody in the chat room if Rabbi Ancel's volume is coming through good for you. Let me know, just so I can know whether to adjust it or not. Okay, so
I suggested to Aryel that we should start discussing something that is fun, that is happy, since weddings are supposed to be happy, and they are happy. So if it's okay with everybody else, I can start telling you the differences between the Ashkenazi and Sephardic traditions at a wedding, or people can just ask me questions. That is totally up to you guys.
okay, well, we start with a couple of little little bits of trivia here. That the first congregation in the United States, well, actually, in what would become the United States, what would you think? Ashkenazic or Sephardic?
You're asking me
Yeah, why not? You
what it
probably
was.
know.
I suppose it was mostly Sephardics because the Ashkenazis came later to the United States.
That is true. The first congregation in the United States was Shearit Yisrael, which was formed in 1730.
Which is Sephardic.
Was Sephardic, and it was made from 20 Sephardic Jews who came from South America to the United States to escape the Inquisition, which was still going on in the 1700s. The first synagogue in the United States, Ashkenazic or Sephardic?
The first synagogue
First synagogue,
was Ashkenazi.
was Sephardic. The first synagogue in the United States was 1763. It was the Turo Synagogue, which was a Sephardic synagogue.
Hmm. See, but you're born in the United States.
Yeah.
You know the background of the United States. If you ask me about Canada, it would be a little bit different. In living in Toronto, believe it or not, there are a lot of Ashkenazi synagogues, but the most important ones, the most beautiful ones, are the Sephardic synagogues in Toronto.
Yeah, yeah, I have to agree with that. Have a beautiful architecture to them.
But listen, the Middle East, the architecture from the Middle East cannot be matched.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, just for utilitarian reasons, number one, they're built to actually withstand quite a bit. But it's that architecture that really sets it apart from everything else. I mean, it's just so much different than Gothic architecture and the kind of, or even modern architecture, which I'm not that big of a fan of. But let's see, we got some.
Ashkenazi synagogues are plain. They're very, very plain synagogues. They're not fancy at all. Where you get into a Sephardic synagogue and it's a pleasure to sit in it.
Yeah, now in Europe, the old synagogues were the old wooden synagogues.
Yep.
And I know there was one that was actually quite ornately painted, but on the whole, not really a lot of decoration.
No, no. There is a synagogue here in the Caribbean, in Puerto Rico. I don't know if you've been to Puerto Rico. There is one of the oldest synagogues in Puerto Rico where the floor is still dirt,
Mm.
but the Oren Kodesh is one of the nicest you want to see I've ever seen. The wood, the way it's carved. The synagogue here where I am in Sosua, the Dominican Republic, that was built by the 1,200 Jews that came here that were not allowed into the United States. The menorah, the floor, the Oren Kodesh, looks like when it was built in 1942. It's new. It is amazingly beautiful, but it was a party. As far as the windows are plain, there are no pictures. That just the oracle.
Oh. So let's check in the chat room here and see what we got going in here. Simca says that the sound is good. So she says the sound is good. So we're good there. Okay. So let's see. We have Colleen puts in that the Turo Synagogue was in Newport, Rhode Island, or what is now Newport, Rhode Island, we should say. Let's see. The Office of the Inquisition is still in existence. The Vatican just changed its name to make it sound less offensive. Yeah, not a big surprise there. Yeah. A lot of people think that the Inquisition was something that happened, in the Middle Ages, like in the 1400s, 1500s, and stuff like that, and that it didn't last that long. I mean, it actually lasted well into the 1700s. So anyway, if you have a question about the difference between Ashkenaz and Sephardi, please put it in the chat room. Rabbi Ancel, you wanted to talk about weddings.
Okay, I'm just going to give one of them and the difference, what it is. Fasting before the wedding. Ashkenazis believe there's a custom that the groom will fast the day before the wedding. It's a process of doing teshuvah. The Gemara says that, but in the Sephardic traditions, they do not follow it. The Sephardics say a wedding is a happy occasion, no fasting.
That's right. They take an alternative view of teshuvah on this kind of a Yom Tov.
Yeah, the Ashkenazis consider the day before the wedding, the day of the wedding, or the wedding is like Yom Kippur. So you're supposed to fast, and you're supposed to do teshuvah, you're supposed to go and do a mikvah.
Mm-hmm.
Sephardics don't do it. They consider that a festive day, and they have a good time.
Yeah, they do their teshuvah a little differently. They do a little more intense study on that day, and that's about it. So you want me to do one?
Uh,
So I'll do the.
there's another custom which is called the Shabbat Hatan.
Yeah.
Shabbos for a Husan. The Ashkenazi tradition is to celebrate that, to call up the groom. He's invited to call up to the Torah before the wedding, and that's why it's called Aufruf, which in Yiddish means calling out to the Sephardic communities. Do it after the wedding.
Yeah, they do it on the first Shabbat after the wedding is when they
Yes.
do the Shabbat Hatan, or the groom's Sabbath.
They also consider Monday and Thursday as being the best day to get married. Do the people know why? My question.
Probably not.
What do we do Monday and Thursday?
Read the Torah.
Ah, so it's a good omen.
Yes. Yeah. So the customarily the what about the what about the actual wedding ceremony, the bedekah?
Okay, well, okay, so basically the ceremony starts with the beddecken. The Ashkenazi tradition is people, or a lot of the ladies, go into where the kala is, because she's in a separate room, because the groom is not supposed to see her, and the parents are there. And the old days, you used to have a husband who used to sing for her because it was a happy occasion. And then the parents will cover the bride's face with a veil. And that veiling is a reminder of an event in which our father, Jacob Ovino, took Leah as his first wife, and believing that she was Rachel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the bride wears the veil until the conclusion of the chuppah ceremony. And the Sephardi communities, the bride enters to the chuppah veil, but the veil is removed while they do the kiddushim. This is an interesting thing about the Muslims, what they do by covering their face, because I have read the Quran because I want to get familiar with it, so that somebody asks a question and I don't open my mouth the wrong way. The Quran says that a woman, just like in Judaism, and I should say in Christianity, are supposed to cover their private parts, not their faces. And the reason why they do it, did it in those days, and they still do it now as a tradition, is because hundreds of years ago, the tribes used to fight with each other, and they used to steal their women. So the women covered their face. So this gentleman who was on a horse riding and chasing this woman grabbed her and stole her. Well, her face was covered, so he didn't know if he was stealing grandma or a
Yeah.
baby girl. So that
Yeah.
is the only reason why the faces are covered. So anybody tells you otherwise, it's a lie.
Yeah. Now that brings up an interesting question. Now, the marriage ceremony is actually the culmination of a contract,
It
correct?
is. Yes.
And you can't actually have a contract with another person unless you can actually identify who the person actually is.
Correct.
So hence why once once the bride enters the chuppah and the kiddushin starts, that the veil is taken off so that they can properly uh, consummate the contract.
Yeah, so they can recognize, he can recognize the bride.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And like I said before, in the Ashkenazi traditions, it's a custom that the first time a couple gets married, and hopefully it's the only time, is they must marry under the stars, weather permitting.
right. We
Because
were discussing
the
that before we went
Upa
on.
for hosts is the house of God, and the stars in the sky, you're in front. God forbid if somebody gets married the second time, he is allowed to get married inside of, inside or inside of the synagogue.
Now brings up another interesting point. The difference now, Ashkenazim under the stars, Sephardim not.
True.
I mean the ceremony takes place outdoors or indoors, but it's during the day.
It is during the day.
And again, we would have to go back again to contract law, which is basically that, that contracts have to be executed in the light of day. That's why any court proceeding, any Jewish court proceeding, is never done at night, because it always has to be done during the daylight. Correct?
But here's also an interesting thing. We were real Orthodox Jews. They never have a civil license. They never get married under civil law.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So when I give out a ketubah, it is the only ketubah that I give is the Orthodox version of the ketubah, because it is recognized by Israel and throughout the world by all the rabbis. If somebody calls me and they say, well, we want the conservative or reform, I usually say to them, please go get another rabbi, because an Orthodox ketubah, the last two words in the ketubah says, it is legal and binding. Therefore, the courts, especially Canada and the United States, and I will say mostly Europe, they will recognize the Orthodox ketubah as a civil license.
Okay, now I'm going to tell tales on you. Now you told me a story about when you were in yeshiva, and you had to, as part of your training, you had to write a ketubah.
One of the things, for ordinations, they test you. Do you know how to write a ketubah? Do you know how to write a get? Because to write a get is something, it is just tough. You make the tiniest mistake, you can forget it. So the rabbis in Jerusalem said, choose the name of a couple, choose a date, and make up a ketubah. Well, so I did. I sent it in, and they said, it's wrong. So I said, well, what's wrong? The rabbi said, well, it's easy for me to tell you what's wrong. Do you find out? Anyway, so I looked through it, sent it back. They said, it's wrong. I looked through it again. I found another mistake. Said, well, it took 9 times.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know that a marriage license for a lady that is she's a young lady. She's a betula. The wording of the ketubah is totally different. If she's a convert, she's a giurta. The wording is totally different, because there's a space where it says about the father. If she's Jewish, you put the word in aviha, her father. But if her father was not Jewish, you put nasa, because her father was not. So these are some, if she is, let's say her husband passed away and she gets married the second time, the wording becomes again. So you have to be so careful, because not just a word mistake, a letter mistake will make the ketubah null and void. The other thing most people must realize, who really owns the ketubah?
Oh, the woman actually owns it.
The woman owns the ketubah, because that's the way, because a Jewish man can divorce a woman for any reason. If my wife doesn't want to cook for me, or she doesn't want to clean for me, I can ask for a divorce. But a woman cannot. But the rabbis and Hashem was smart. So he evened out the table, and he said, the woman owns the ketubah. The only time the husband is allowed to touch it is when he signs it. And then the ketubah is given to the bride's mother, because God forbid that there is ever a divorce, and the husband starts playing games.
Yeah.
And he wants to get married again. Well, I'm sorry. The only way that he's going to get the get is the woman releases the ketubah.
Right, and that's another interesting thing because the what a woman brings into the marriage, she keeps. That if God forbid there should be a divorce, what she came into the marriage with, she takes with her.
There's a small joke about, during the ceremony, is that when the husband says the words of the holy words getting married, Hareyat Mekodesh et li betaba zo kedat Moshe Israel, he doesn't put the ring on the wedding finger. He puts it before he says those words. He puts it on the forefinger,
Yeah.
and they say why? But it's a joke. It's not long. They say that between the start and the finish of his words, the bride still has a chance to change her mind.
Yeah.
Once he puts it on the wedding finger, he's married.
So, this this
Now
tradition.
let's go to the get. The
Pardon?
get is such a difficult. You're better, God forbid, if you ever get divorced, you're better off to go to somebody who's a scribe,
Mm-hmm.
who knows how to write a get, because it has to be a certain size. Most of the time it's 8.5 by 11 or something in that range. But the lines must be straight. Each line must end up in the same way. If the last word in the get ends up in the middle of the line, the last letter of that word must be extended to the end of the line so it matches. So it is so difficult and so careful because the wording, the Orthodox wording of a get, it is 10 times tougher than writing a ketubah. And hopefully, and I pray to Hashem that whoever listens, that you don't have to go through that. It's not a nice procedure.
Well, that whole idea of stretching the letters is something we also see in the Torah too.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's where it comes from. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another custom that Ashkenazis have, and I have sometimes argument because, oh, I'm sorry, Rabbi, my dress is too long. Instead of walking around 7 times around my room, can I do it 3 times? Sometimes you have no choice. Say, listen, lady, this is your wedding, do it as you want. But the tradition is 7 times. And what is the reason? It's according to Kabbalah, it represents the seventh day of creation.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and every marriage is a reenactment of the creative process. So she walks around the groom to indicate that these 7 cycles are now repeated. Sephardic Jews don't believe in it.
Yeah. 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 We don't do that. Oh. Okay.
This is just weddings. We're going to get into, next time, we're going to get into the differences between Sephardic and Ashkenazi traditions. That should take maybe 2 sessions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talking about the wedding, and I mean, if you've watched Fiddler on the Roof, and there is a wedding, in the movie, and you can see what is actually. Do you know that the wedding that was in the movie was an actual wedding?
Yes.
Yeah, they actually filmed an actual wedding. That's why you see it. It's at night, and well, the candles too.
Look, it just depends. Like I said, some of the traditions, vary from town to town, from city to city
Yeah.
to country to country. A lot of the couples that I have married, and because this is why I like to go the day before the wedding, to get to know the people, to get to know the couples, to get to know the parents, to see if there's any hesitance in the parents that have a problem, because sometimes you will marry an Ashkenazi and a Sefardi, and they'll say, which one, which tradition are you going to follow? So that's why I go the day before. I like to do a practice run. I like to explain to them what it's all about, and it works out fine. Thank God I never had a problem. But it's up to the groom and the bride how they want to do it. What I like to do is usually the groom with his parents walks down the first, and there's ushers and ladies walking down. They come down next, but the groom faces me. He does not look. He cannot see the bride. I will not allow it. If he wants to see it, I'm not going to do it. I don't break traditions. I'm a traditional rabbi, and this is the way I am going to go to God. So he faces me. So the last person to come down is the bride and the parents. She is veiled. I asked them to stop behind the groom. I asked the mother and the father to lift her veil and give her a kiss if they wish, and put the veil back. And sometimes the groom and the bride say, let my parents sit down. I said, okay. Do you want your parents inside the chuppah? It's okay with me. That's fine. That's your wishes. When everybody is in the chuppah or sitting down, I will say to the groom, meet your bride. He will turn around, go and meet her, but not uncover her veil. One time somebody tried, and I said, no. There's no kissing before. So what I usually do, I will have his talus, or if he doesn't have one, I usually bring a spare one. I will take the talus. I will wrap the talus around both of them. I will ask him to repeat the bracha to put on the talit. And after that, I will put the talit on his shoulder. And then I will invite him inside the chuppah, and we start the ceremony. The ceremony starts with a glass of wine, and I usually tell them, if you're coming from the United States or from Canada, bring a bottle of kosher wine. Kosher wine does not exist in Dominica, unfortunately. But bring me white wine, and some of them just say, white wine? It's supposed to be red wine. I said, you can bring red wine if you wish. But I've had a few accidents since we're on the ocean, on the sand by the ocean. You'll get a little drift or a little wind, and that cup is going to fall over on your white dress.
Yeah.
If it's red wine, it will never wash up. If it's white wine, it will. So most of them bring white wine. I don't think there's such a big deal in the red wine or white wine, but it's, I have done weddings where those dresses are kind of costly. So as a safety precaution, white wine. And then I will bless them in the name of God. I will bless them in the name of marriage, and I will bless them in the name of love. I will do the blessing of marriage. I will do the ceremony. Sometimes the couples want to say a few words, but to themselves, which is perfectly fine. But then comes the most important part of the ceremony, is the actual marriage. When the groom says those holy, I said it before, and the woman says the 4 words that she marries her husband. Ani ledodi vedodi li. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. And these 2 sentences is what marries you in Judaism. The rest of it is what they say, it's a little bit of a show.
Yeah, I'm just catching up with the chat room to see if we have any questions. Tradition is to. Oh, okay. So, you want to discuss the Heder Yehud?
That comes towards the end. Um, Ashkenazi tradition, they say that immediately after the wedding, the groom and the bride seclude themselves in a room, locked in a room, and they remain together alone for a few minutes.
Yep.
Most Sephardic rabbis, and particularly Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, said, "No way."
Yeah.
He rejected it. Then he explained that Yehud is the Chatan and the Kala. They just get to know maybe a hug, maybe a kiss. But Ovadia never believed in it. I don't believe in it because at weddings, when you sit down together, most of the weddings that I do, yeah, are not separate. I've done a few that are totally Orthodox, and they sit separate. It is time for a husband and wife to kiss after the wedding is over and not during the wedding. That's why Ovadia Yosef said no.
Yeah.
Basically, these are the main elements of and the differences between Ashkenazi and Sephardic weddings
In general, in a
in
very
general.
broad sense, because I mean the customs are going to vary between Mizrahi and Yemenite, and
Of course,
you know,
I've been to, I never done a Yemenite wedding. I've been to one. It is something to see.
yes, yes, it is. Yeah,
It's, like I said, traditions will vary from town to town, from a little shtetl to a little shtetl, from a city to a city, from a town to a town, to a country, so you can go from, let's say, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem to a wedding. It's going to be totally different.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
So, I mean, you want to go into some, in-depth traditions for the Mizrahi. Then you have the totally different ones. You have the Breslov, you have Chabad,
mm-hmm.
you have the Satmars. Uh, I mean, you can go on for days to explain their traditions, which is basically, I don't believe in them because I believe a Breslov Jew and a Chabad Jew, well, that's to be discussed. And a Satmar, they're still Jews. And if it's an Orthodox wedding, it's supposed to be an Orthodox wedding. But it's not. It's not. They're so different from each other that sometimes you wonder why.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not strictly because of the region that they're from either.
True, true,
Yeah, I
true.
mean
Sometimes,
that's a topic
sometimes,
that we can get into sometime, where we can talk about the different branches of Hasidic Judaism, which I think at the last time I actually counted was over 300 different uh, what would you call them?
minhags, not
Yeah,
traditions.
minhag. Yeah, yeah. I mean, uh, Lubavitch and Moditz and Breslov, Satmar, which are pretty much well known, except for Moditz. Moditz is very, very small.
Listen, the Satmars, they come from my country. Um, Chabad, I preferably don't want to discuss. Please forgive me.
Hmm.
The Breslev, I like because I have watched them, especially in the morning when they do the morning prayers. They actually dance. They have such a kavana in them. Their mind and their heart, their hands and their feet are one. I was just mesmerized by them.
Yeah.
And listen, the rabbi from the Breslev certainly was a holy one.
Yeah, I went to. I was at a. I won't say who it was, but I was at a. I was at a Hasidic um, shul, and you know, during the service, and I'm going, this isn't Hasidic. There's no pounding on the table. There's no dancing. There's no shouting. No nothing like that. Where's the joy?
Well, this is why I said I would prefer not to talk about Chabad wedding, is because they totally get drunk in a stupor and it doesn't end up to be a wedding. So,
So, is there
I,
anything else we want to talk about weddings, or do we want to move on to a different subject?
I would say probably 70, 75% of the weddings.
Sorry,
Sorry?
you broke up a little bit there.
I said, here in Dominican, I do 60, 65, 70, 80% of the weddings are Russian from Canada and from the United States. And sometimes even they come straight from Russia. The Russians happen to love the Dominican Republic.
Huh.
And
Interesting.
because of the situation that was in Russia with the communism,
Mm-hmm.
I would say most of them don't have a clue. So I spend sometimes, I'm doing a wedding in March. The mother's name is Galina from the bride. You have no idea. I was supposed to, I'm going to answer some of the questions after. She's probably asked me 60, 70 questions because she has no idea about Jewish tradition, Jewish weddings. She doesn't have a Hebrew name.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, it's tough. I try, what would you say the mother's name, Galina? What would her Hebrew name is? So I go through, sometimes I spend a day just trying to see something close to it. Sometimes I get lucky,
Yeah.
with the names, but it's tough. Those people had to hide their names, had to hide their religion, and it's starting over again. I have a gentleman that lives next door to me. His name is George Dollar. He's from Toronto. I was in Toronto. That's when I got my virus last December.
Yeah.
I was at his 65th birthday. In honor of his 65th birthday, a week before, he had his Brit Milah at 65.
Really.
I had asked him, I said, you don't have a Jewish ketubah, you're really not married in Judaism. You have two sons, you have grandchildren. We need to straighten out your family. And it hurts my heart to say to these people, and they look at me and they say, Rabbi, what should we have done? We could have gotten killed, and I understand, and my heart hurts for them. And some of them say, well, is this going to cost me a lot of money? I said, no, no, this, if you do this, no, 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 I don't want any money. This, you know, it's my father taught me a good lesson to be a nice person, and it's not always about money. It's about giving, because believe it or not, if you really believe in Hashem, may His name be blessed forever and ever and ever. If you believe in Him, He'll give you back
Yeah.
100%, and sometimes more. And I've seen it. It's happened to me, and this is what it really, really means to be a Jew. When I have two ordinations, actually three. I have an ordination also from New York, from three rabbis in New York, and one, and the rabbi, I got my Yore. So I said, I knew I was going to go to Jerusalem to get my Yadid, but I said, what would it take to get the Adin from you guys? They said 2 years. I said, oh God. I said, I'm burned out after 4 years. And I said, I tell you what. I says, can I write a thesis on a subject that I want to write? If you accept it, would you forgive the 2 years? They said yes. So they said to me, what are you going to write? And I said, I have a good subject. You probably not going to believe in it. And they said, what? I said, is there a difference between belief and faith? And the three of them looked at it. Excuse the word. They said, you're full of it. I said, there is. And I wrote my thesis. I don't know. Did I send it to you?
No, I have
Huh?
not seen that.
You never seen? Okay, I will send it to you.
Yes, please.
But basically, what it boils down to, a belief is in your head. Because, Indians believe that cow is holy. This one believes that Buddha is holy. It's in your head. But you can go to 10 rabbis and get 20 opinions, or to 10 doctors and get 20 opinions.
Yeah.
Everybody has different opinions. Like this in Spanish, they say la corazón, the heart cannot lie. So your faith comes from your heart. But here is the whole thing. To believe, you must have faith. And to have faith, you must believe. They're intertwined, but they're totally different. And they looked at me and they said, we never thought about it that way. I said, you see, now there's a difference between belief and faith. You never thought because you were thinking with your head, not with your heart.
Right.
But it is very, very true. Your heart cannot lie. I've always believed that there's certain words, there's certain phrases that people say to each other, young couples say to each other. If they really thought about it, they would never say it, because I believe when somebody says, honey, I'm in love with you, he's not in love with you. He's in love with love. But when he says, I love you, I mean, he does, he loves you. So there's a big difference in some of the wording. Aryel, I'm also gonna send you a ceremony that I wrote. I had a Jewish couple, and it was I've only done in 22 years, two divorces, two guests. And one of the couples was living over here, and after 1 year of marriage, they came to me and they said, Rabbi, we have a problem. I said, what's the problem? We want a divorce. I said, why? And they explained. It really was a simple matter, but it becomes a major thing. And I wrote this ceremony thinking about what this couple did. It's called the 5 roses, or the 5 pearls. And the first pearl is listen. The most important thing about a marriage is two people to listen to each other, because you can talk yourself blue, but if the other person doesn't hear, doesn't listen, it means nothing. It really means nothing. And that was the problem. A woman and a man. A woman has a want and a need. A man has a want and a need, but they're totally different.
Yes. Yeah.
So the husband comes home and meets the wife, and he says, hello, and the wife says to him, and he doesn't listen, but he believes what she said that she wants, but she really needs. It's over.
Yeah.
And it's a nice ceremony, and I will send it to you. And if some of the people would like to see it or send it to me, you're allowed to send it to them, because it is a ceremony about two people. Because it's easy. You lived apart for so many years. Your bride lived apart for so many years. After the wedding, when you come together, it's a totally different story.
Oh yeah.
And talking is important, but listening is the most important.
Yeah. Okay, we are about at we're a little past our halfway point, and as we usually do, we take a break at the halfway point for 6 minutes. Give everybody a chance to run and get cookies or get a refill on their coffee or do whatever is necessary. So I'm going to mute you for about 6 minutes here, Ancel. Hope you don't
I'm one
mind.
hour ahead of you. By me, it's 10 o'clock. No coffee.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to mute you and we'll get you back on here in 6 minutes. So,
Okay.
okay, so everybody hang on. We will return in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back. Thanks everybody for sticking around. Let's see if we picked up anybody in the chat room. Looks like same group as we had before. Again, we are discussing the difference between Sephardic and Ashkenaz traditions and stuff like that. And we're mainly concentrating on the weddings tonight. That's with myself and Rabbi Ancel. Let me bring Rabbi Ancel back on here. Okay, so you're back on again.
So, like I was saying to you before, a lot of the weddings I do are Russian people, and sometimes their children have children. And I noticed when they were talking and information from the family that they give their children names after their grandparents, and their grandparents are still alive, which is a Sephardi custom. Ashkenazis only give names after people who have got to God.
Right.
It kind of flipped me out because not being familiar with that, I have a problem, but you're more familiar with the Sephardi customs. I have a problem naming somebody after somebody who's still alive.
So why is that?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Oh, well, it's I mean, you want from what I understand, okay, is that you name a child after a person who you want them to emulate, have the same attributes of. So if that person is still alive, I don't know.
I'm losing you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, I was saying that most people want to they name them name after a person who they want to be like. They want to have the same kind of attributes and stuff.
I can understand. There's no real answer to it. It's just, look, the most people, like I said, they just heard me the first time. When I was in Miami for 22 years, I was in charge of the Chevra Kadisha. That's another
Right.
long subject that I'm going to talk about. I've probably done somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,500 to 4,000 taharas on men. And listening to the families, and sometimes I see a lady on the daughter, and she was pregnant, and she said, my father is going to have a name. You understand? Or, my mother's going to have a name, from the baby that's going to be born. And then I found out that the Sephardim named their children after people who are alive, kind of threw me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, for those people who don't know what tahara is the
ritual cleansing of a person who has passed away. But that is a subject that I not too many people are as experienced as I am. I wrote a book on that. I wrote the instructions for the Taharans. It's the same thing for conversion, and I should send that to you also, Aryel. Sometimes I forget myself. I'm 73 years old. I wrote a book on conversion. It's 127 pages. It goes from A to Z.
Yeah,
It
that one
covers,
I do have.
covers it. Sorry?
I do have that one.
Oh, you do have the comprehensive? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the ritual of Tahara, by the way, men are only allowed to attend a deceased man,
Right.
not a woman.
Right.
But a woman, in case there's not enough men to do the Tahara on a man, a woman is allowed to do a Tahara on a man.
That I did not know.
Yes. For
No.
the simple reason is that, God forbid, four men walk into a prep room, and the lady happens to be 18, 19 years old, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
a human being, a man, may get a rise out of it just to look on her beauty,
Yeah.
even though she has passed away. A woman cannot. So a woman is allowed, but like I said, only if there's no man available, because that man needs a tahara. But that's the only case if there's not enough men, because the minimum allowed is 2 to 3 people to do a tahara. One person is not allowed this, and we'll get into it because it's a long procedure. There's a lot of prayers. There's a lot of parts to the shroud. Each piece of the shroud has its own prayer. So that's another subject that may take maybe 1 or 2 shows also. But to do that, I want to explain everything so that everybody knows and understands it, not, a 5, 10 minute show and they go away from it and they say, didn't learn anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting back to weddings and stuff like that. Now we kind of talked about a little bit about after the wedding, having children, naming children, and things like that. Well, what this custom the Ashkenazim have of this wearing a wig or a shadel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm
which is
losing you.
not a Sephardi custom.
I didn't hear you because what you said.
Oh,
I'm losing you.
Oh, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here.
Okay, what were you saying the custom?
Oh, I was saying the custom of married women wearing Ashkenazim wearing a shadel.
It's been a problem of mine too, because I don't believe in it too, because it says that a woman should cut her hair because, in the eyes of her husband, she's supposed to be the most beautiful person. Well, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I've heard a number of reasons that a woman's hair is her glory.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of money. A shekel is $2,000, $3,000 for a good one. Then you have one for the week, one for Shabbos, one for Yom Tov, one for Yom Kippur, one for Pesach. Because you got to be rich. No, I don't. That's one of the. There's some of the customs that I really don't believe in. I believe in that. A lot of people say that a man, when he gets married, should not wear a wedding band. Well, I believe that it should.
Yeah.
Orthodox Jews or Mizrahi or strictly Orthodox say no. They have to give me a good reason why not.
Yeah, it really doesn't really make a lot of sense, does it? Yeah. Whether you do or whether you don't, I mean, there really isn't anything in that I can think of in Torah.
Yes. This is why I always said, Torah law is Torah law. Fine.
Yeah.
Rabbinic law, just because I say it's okay, you say it's not okay, doesn't mean I'm wrong or right. It doesn't mean you're wrong or right. But it's a rabbinic law. It's not part of the Torah. And you either follow the Torah or follow a rabbi, which to me means nothing. Torah law cannot be changed. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and you read, and this is why I believe a lot of Jewish people should read Maimonides, Caro, some of these people, and they go into depth and they explain most of the reasons. Maimonides was one of the greatest. He wrote the 13 attributes of life, and I will explain to you when you do the Tahara by the 13 twists.
Yeah.
So there's, uh, when here's a big thing, and I believe that Rabbi Schneerson was a smart person. He was 13 years old. He knew the Torah by heart. Was he Moshiach? And that's why I have the problem with Chabad.
Yeah.
Was he smart? Yes. He tried to decipher some of the secrets of the Torah, because he was saying when the Torah was written, and Moses got Torah Sheba'al Peh, he got it, and the only reason he wrote it down because he said we Jews will forget it. But
well, that brings up an interesting point.
in those days there was no calendars.
Yeah.
So why does the Torah have 52 sections, which happens to be 52 weeks of the year?
Right.
He said, when Moses came down and Hashem, may his name be blessed forever and ever, said, count how many Israelites are there. He counted 613,000.
Mm-hmm.
But there are 613,000 deeds. Yes? And he counted 613,000 Israelites. So where's the correlation to this? The Torah has a lot of secrets, a lot of which we're not supposed to know.
That's true. Yeah. It says what, 50 levels of the Torah?
Yeah.
Even Moshe Rabbeinu could only reach 49.
Which is not bad.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Rabbi Craig Wyckoff has joined us in the chat room.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, let's see what Rabbi Wyckoff has to say. Men wearing a wedding ring, is a modern custom, he says.
Of course, it's a modern
Okay,
custom.
traditionally in Judaism, only the women wear a ring. And the ring evolved from a man giving a gift of gold or something of value to buy the wife. Oh, okay.
But that's a modern custom. Now, why is
Well,
the
the men wearing a ring is a modern custom. Yeah.
Why isn't the ring supposed to have stones in it? I can't hear you.
Yeah, because I didn't give you an answer.
What?
I didn't give you an answer. That's why you couldn't hear me.
Oh, it's traditionally, this is what the rabbis have said. It's not in the Torah.
Okay, you faded out there for a second. So the rabbi said,
if stone breaks, it can never be mended, just like a marriage. But a ring made out of gold, if it breaks, it can be mended. It's not part of the Torah. It's just a Jewish Ashkenazi tradition.
That's what Colleen says. Colleen says that it has to be an unadorned ring.
Yes.
Plain, no stones, etc. Rabbi Craig says because the couple should not show opulence. Huh. Oh, interesting.
There's a lot of differences, and there's a lot of customs, that, like I said, you can go from place to place.
Oh, Colleen brought up another very interesting thing. She says, and because stones can be imitated.
You mean a diamond and a false diamond?
Right.
it doesn't matter. You shouldn't have Paul stone and on a stone. No, but basically, this is what they try to translate, is to say that a stone is breakable, and if it breaks in your ring, it's like a marriage. Once a marriage is broken, it's broken.
Yeah.
Gold is unadorned. If it breaks, you can repair it. So, like I
Yeah.
said, it's a tradition, but it's not in the Torah. A lot of traditions are not in the Torah.
Well, and that brings up another point. I mean, and we were talking about this, I think, last week, and we were saying that if you go by just the Torah, you cannot perform any mitzvah in the Torah just by what the Torah says.
Impossible.
Right. And I've made this point numerous times with people who are watching me, which I'm going to reiterate now, which is basically that the biggest example I can give you is what it says in the Torah is on Yom Kippur, you shall afflict your soul. And what does that mean? What does it mean to afflict your soul? So that's why the rabbis have the the Talmud, the Gemara, to define what does that actually mean, because without the written Torah, we have the oral Torah, we have the written Torah. The written Torah basically is to explain what the oral Torah or the I'm probably not making it very clear.
But what I like about Judaism, the Torah, the Shofar, some of the laws you can bend without breaking them.
Yes.
And this is what makes Jewish life, Jewish traditions understandable and easy to live with. But if you were to go just by the Torah, and I was talking to one of my rabbis, and because the laws of Shabbos, I studied it. It's 24 months. It's not an easy subject to study.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally said to him, then all these laws, this book is probably 600-700 pages. I said, the first 40 pages what you're allowed to do, and the rest of it what you can't do. And he says, I might not on Shabbos, I might not get out of bed. He says, well, that's the first thing. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a famous Hasidic story about that talks about the rabbi who believed himself to be so righteous that he would sit in a chair at the beginning of Shabbat and he would not move during the entire Sabbath for fear that he would break the Sabbath. And he said by doing that, he actually broke the Sabbath because he took all the joy out of Sabbath.
That's funny. Yeah, it is. And like I said, the next section, we're going to get into the real differences between the Sephardic and Ashkenazi traditions. And there's hundreds of them. And it's not easy to understand for people who begin to learn about Torah and learn about kashrut. It's what I believe now, since we've gotten into this, that I have a lot of stuff on this. Believe it or not, there's another degree in the rabbinical after Yadim.
And that is what?
Yatir. You know that. But since we don't have a temple, it's not given out.
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
I studied for almost 3 years the diseases of the cows and
right.
how to recognize this, and that's what gives you that. And I don't think I have enough years left unless Hashem builds the temple. It's
Soon in our days.
yeah, I hope so. But like I said, it is nice to see, and I will send you a lot of information about the taharas, about the customs of weddings, and you should give it to people. It's easier for you to distribute than me because you have their email addresses.
Hmm.
And for them to read it too, because the more you read, the more you learn, and the more it stays in your, and, in your memory. Because 1 hour discussion, and then we get into another subject. Basically, you tend to forget some of it.
Right, yeah.
But I believe that we should discuss these things with people because a lot of people, not because they don't know, they never been taught. And this is why I have a problem when we are called rabbis, because rabbis is a word that was made up in the North America. It's a modern name because the name for a rabbi is more, and a more means to teach, a teacher.
Hmm.
And that is one of the things that we don't do, unfortunately, is teach our flock. I had a bad incident with a rabbi in Miami. And sometimes when you tell the truth, it's still lashon hara, but this is to teach our people, the people who are listening. And and that's why I don't mention names. He'd been a public rabbi for 20, 25 years, had a nice synagogue. I finished the funeral, and he was maybe 40, 50 feet away from me, and he was doing an unveiling. So just to pay my respects, because he was older than me, I went over and he hadn't finished. And when he finished, I went over and I shook hands, and it was the days between holidays.
Hmm.
So, so you know the prayer you're not supposed to say in the days between. You're not supposed to say Mikal Moira.
Yeah.
His response, his response to me was, "What do they know?"
Ah,
And
yeah. I've run
that
it.
was
I've run into rabbis at myself. Yeah, they
yeah,
don't know.
and
They don't know the difference.
that was the last time I spoke with him because you're cheating your flock. What do they know? But you did the wrong thing as a rabbi, and yet the people don't know that you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And so this is why I like to teach people. This is why, like I said to you a long time ago, that for a person to convert to Judaism, it has to come from the heart. It has to come for the right reason. And this is why a lot of rabbis have problems doing conversions, because what is your guarantee that that person is going to follow?
Yeah.
There is no guarantee. You just hope that they will. But you can tell. You can tell. I can tell from the answers. I can tell from the answers right away that they're serious about, or they're just skimming.
Well, there's two times that there's one time in the past and one time in the future where conversions are not allowed. During the reign of King Solomon, no conversions were allowed. And during the time of Mashiach, no conversions will be allowed.
Correct.
Yeah.
I used to share an office in Miami with another rabbi. So I was sitting in my office, and a lady walked in. The secretary was there, and she said, "Can I see Rabbi Solomon?" And and the secretary told me that she is a lady that is interested in getting conversion. Anyways, I got off my chair and I waited. As soon as she approached my office door, I smacked the door in her face. And this lady flipped out. And so the secretary ran over. She said, "Listen, I don't know. Maybe the rabbi had a bad night. Said, can you come back tomorrow at 10 o'clock?" Sure enough, she came back. She came close to my door. I slammed the door in her face, and this time she flipped. Really? I want his full name, address, and I'm going to sue him. So the secretary says, look, come back tomorrow. I guarantee you he was going to see you, and he will talk to you. Anyways, sure enough, I saw her car. It was a bluish car. I saw it from the window. She showed up. I sat in my chair, and she walked in. I said, please have a seat. I said, tell me something about yourself. And she said, you want to convert to Judaism? And she said, why did you slam the door in my face? I said, if you knew anything about getting converted to Judaism, he said, you know I have to rebuke you a couple of times to see if you're serious.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So I said, so what gives? And so why are you so interested? And she said, I want to do the lessons and I want to, I said, so what's the hurry? She said, well, I have this nice Jewish guy. I said, okay, you can go see another rabbi, please.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, because that's halacha. I mean, that's converting for the wrong reason.
yep.
You can't convert just to marry. Yeah.
That was a good lesson for, my secretary, she came in laughing and, she said, this girl is adamant. But it was the wrong reason.
Yeah.
You can say, in my heart, I want to be Jewish. I want to follow Judaism. And I also want to marry, I met a nice Jewish guy. It's not a bad answer. But I met this Jewish guy, I want to get married. That's the wrong answer.
Right. Yeah.
Any questions? Because I have run out of words.
So why weren't converts allowed during King Solomon's time, and why won't they be allowed during the time of Mashiach?
Why? Because in the time of Mashiach, we will all be studying, we'll all be the true Jews. And there will be peace. There will be no difference between Sephardim and Ashkenazi. We will be Am Israel.
They say that Solomon would not allow conversions during his reign because he said, if you're converting now, you're only converting because times were good. Where were you when the times were bad? And he said the same thing of Mashiach. Mashiach will say, where were you when the people were suffering? And now you want to convert when times are good. So.
But wait a second. We Jews have always been suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes we deserve it,
For a long, long time.
Yeah.
I remember the words of Beggars and your president now, which I'm not going to discuss, but in a way, he threatened Begin. He said, "Listen, I am not a Jew with trembling knees." I don't know if you've seen those words.
Yeah.
So we've been suffering for thousands of years, and it's about time Mashiach came and we had a little bit easier because even to this day, the anti-Semitism and it is gone rampant all over the world. Yet I am in a country, and a small country, and it's supposed to be a Catholic country. It's the only country in the world that has a Bible on its flag, believe it or not.
Yeah. I remember we were discussing that.
Trujillo, the dictator that allowed those 1,200 poor Jews to come in because the United States wouldn't accept them. He wrote and he saw what they did and how hard they worked. He wrote into the Constitution of the Dominican Republic that Jews are protected by law. If you are an Israeli citizen and you live in the Dominican Republic, When you come to customs, they see an Israeli passport, you don't have to pay entry fee. That is the respect for the Jews here. I feel more comfortable here than I was in Miami. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
no
can wear
way.
a yarmulke. I don't have to wear it. I can wear a fur hat. Nobody's going to say anything. They'll ask me what it is,
Yeah.
but that's it.
Well, we've come about to the
When
end
I
of our.
moved here, and I spoke a little bit of, a few words of Spanish, and they asked me, "Cómo se siente? How are you?" And I used to say, muy bien, very good. And I used to say, gracias a Dios. And they used to look at me and she said, where did you learn the words? I said, I didn't learn the words from you. You learned the words from me from the Torah. Because I say Baruch Hashem, which means the same thing. You're shocked. Here, the Dominicans are very respectful. When they ask you how are you, they'll always say Baruch Hashem. It is the strangest thing. They don't say it in Hebrew, but they say it in Spanish.
Uh-huh.
But here's the corker, and you're gonna laugh at this. It's a Catholic country.
Mm-hmm.
90% of the Dominicans have a wife, have children, but they never marry. It's because of the family laws here in the Dominican is different. They say whatever your parents leave you is yours, whatever the parents leave your wife is hers. So they say, why get married?
Yeah.
So, but the Catholic religion, if you want to call it a religion, says if you're not married and you have children, you're automatically excommunicated.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, we are at our end of our time, so I'm going to mute you, but hang on. I'll be back with you as soon as we sign off. And yeah, let me go ahead and make sure I get
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I hope people learn and listen a little bit. And then, like I said, you can give them my email if you want. And if they have any questions, I'll only be glad to answer.
Okay, well, hang on, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, so anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. If you have any questions or anything that you want to discuss, let me know. You can email me. You can go to the Seven Beggars website, and you can email me through there, or you can through the our group page on Facebook and on MeWe. Don't forget, on Wednesday night is the Torah study in depth with Rabbi A, and then Friday night is Kabbalah and Rivul Shabbat service at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then Shabbat morning at Shacharit and Musaf at 10 a.m. Until then, everyone, we will just simply say, Leila Tov.